Elche were very compact, and they kind of forced Xavi and Barcelona to figure them out with more talent. And that, for me, is kind of the way that I would summarize the game, is that Barcelona were able to utilize their superior talent over the course of 90 minutes, and they had to figure out and kind of break through that puzzle, kind of like an escape room in the Valencian community. Because yesterday they recorded 8 big chances against Elche, the most big chance they've had in a single match since the 2nd of December 2020 against Ferencváros. And because yesterday, with those 8 big chances, they missed 6 of them. And as you mentioned, if they convert on those, they win by 6, because the expected goals even was 4.20 or 420. Yeah, nice. 420 against 0.92 for Elche. And shots in that regard were 20-13. And Barcelona the shots they were getting on that, especially in the second half when Ferran Torres. We'll talk about that and the changes. But yeah, and then the other big picture here is that 7 wins and 4 draws for Barcelona in the Liga since that loss to Real Betis in early December. And it's been all Xavi, all Barcelona, and all of a very, very deep team. And I think the last point about this comeback before we start talking about tactics is that I was calm throughout this comeback because for the first time, and this is going back to the whole Messi thing, it's a reminder to me in these games that Messi, this is his first year being gone for a player that has been in my life since this 3rd or 4th year I was supporting FC Barcelona, right? So there are so many times, basically starting in 07-ish, whenever Barcelona were down in the game, you go, okay, Messi, can you be the guy, please? Can you figure this out for us? Even during the days at the end of the Ronaldinho era, before that full passing of the torch happened, by 09, it was, Messi, not only can you save us, but he's going to save us, and he will save us. And for Barca yesterday, this is not a real term. It's not a real term, but it's a non-heliocentric comeback, if that makes any sense. Where you're not just relying on one player to help the team come back. It felt like the weight of the world was on Dembélé in the first half, but by the second, you're like, no, it's any number of players are going to be the reason Barcelona come back in this game.
One thing, Elche do have an official English Twitter account, but it only has 2,175 followers, so I don't think we're going to get that much Elche English-speaking fans right now. So I completely agree with what you said. Like, it's obvious that Elche are going to be in the top tier of teams that are probably going down to the second division. I agree. And it was a game that I listened to the press conference the day before, and their head coach was basically saying like, hey, it's Barcelona. They're flying high. We're just going to defend and then try to hit them on a counter, which is exactly what they did. But even then, during the first half, I think if the game would have ended in a draw, or hopefully, thank God it didn't happen, a loss, I would have been mad at the result, not at how we played. Because like you said, in my opinion, we played great. We did what we needed to do as a collective. We created a bunch of clear goal scoring opportunities. Then it's just down to the individual player to put a good chance away. Frankie didn't do that. Aubameyang wasn't as sharp as we've seen him throughout the last few games. Dembélé, it's weird because every time he gets the ball, you get that sense that something's going to happen. He's going to create something. He might not end up on the score sheet as the guy that provided the assist or the one that scored the goal, but he was part of the play that ended up in a goal or in a goal-scoring opportunity. And I think Dembélé was amazing during that first half. And then Gavi, the Gavi thing, that caught me a little bit by surprise because I thought that playing Gavi as a left winger or as a false left winger was out of necessity when we didn't have our full attacking options available. And now, bar Ansu Fati, we do. So it caught me by surprise that Xavi left both Adama and Ferran on the bench, because he could have started Adama on the right and Dembélé on the left if he wanted to give Ferran a breather, or Adama a breather and put Ferran, even though Ferran hasn't gotten a breather in ages. I agree. So it caught me by surprise, and I'm no fan. I'm old school, Dan. I'm sorry. I like wingers to play as wingers. I like center forwards to play as center forwards and such and such. I'm not. I'm old man yelling at the cloud. I don't like this. Oh, let's play our center mid as a center back and yada and this and that. No, no, no. Like Gabi is amazing as a midfielder. Yeah, he could play as a left winger if need be, but this, in my opinion, wasn't that occasion. So it caught me by surprise a little bit. Hopefully, it doesn't happen again because it doesn't do any favors to Gabi at the end of the day, because where he's great, where he's amazing is as an interior, not as a left winger. So again, I know he was saving them for Galatasaray, but what is more important to you? Away Elche La Liga points, 3 points, or Galatasaray at home? Like, in my opinion, this was the more important match than the one on Thursday. So I think if you're going to rotate, if you're going to put Gavi as a left winger, I think you might as well put him at the Camp Nou against Galatasaray than away against Elche.
Well, I think the only argument I would make on Xavi's behalf is that with the form that Dembele has been in recently, the idea is that Dembele could have won that match in the first 45 minutes on his own. In particular, even the first 15 minutes. He had a shot 10 minutes in. He was able to take on players, create something for Aubameyang. And then there was that really nice ball from Ter Stegen, found Dembele on this full-length 60-yard pass. 10 minutes after that, that leads to the Alba shot. And for Dembele, I think, again, I understand the reasoning that if you're going to start Dembele, you almost can start Gabi because of the attention that Dembele attracts from that back line of Elche, Xavi knowing that Elche were going to play a 4-5-1. And you're right that when it came to Gabi, it had nothing to do with Gabi. His job was a lot of different things. The heat map shows that not only was he not part of the passing buildup, but he was completely isolated on the left wing. But he had to stay high and wide to stretch that Elche back line. So to make sure that Elche weren't able to strong side Dembele's side, which they still attempted to do, Gabi still had to keep his positioning. And it's not even that he's ineffective there. He was ineffective because Aubameyang and Gabi had no relationship, because Aubameyang was being tasked. I mean, that's how you break down a medium or low block, is that you bring your number 9 into the middle of the field to create that numerical advantage in the middle of the field. And Aubameyang's first touch just isn't good enough for that kind of scenario. I also thought Dembele didn't really bring his best game either. So as I said, like, this could have been over at halftime if Dembele had decided to bring his bag that he brought against the last few matches, right? Like, if we actually had peak Dembele in that way. But, and the other argument too is that you kind of have to do that in that situation because Memphis isn't starting fit yet. Because Memphis is the one actually who starts over Ferran. Like, Ferran Torres still needed a rest, both physical and mental, but Memphis wasn't ready physically to start. And clearly 2 goals in 2 games, looking just fine, that being Memphis to buy. And Ansu is out injured, of course. And that's what kind of leaves Gabi as being the odd man out in that situation where you kind of put him on an island and he struggles. And that's why in the second half, everything was able to change. And I think, again, that Xavi only allowed it. Like, when I say only allowed, he made changes at halftime. Like, Gabi was taken off at halftime. And if you're 17 years old and you're taken off at halftime, you're like, oh, my career's over. But all things considered, it's Gabi playing out of position. And I think it was totally understandable why it happened. I don't think anything is going to happen with Gabi moving forward. And then with Torres being the absolute right move coming off the bench. I mean, yeah, of course, I think anybody would have done that. But even on that left wing, able to play into those pockets of space, and then got even better when Memphis comes on, because Memphis would drop in. And this actually wasn't just those guys. It's really interesting getting into all the different changes of the second half. Are you ready for these, Rafa?
I'm ready.
All right. So some of the things I saw here for Araujo, who I did actually not mention in my 5 headlines at all, his positioning and his ability on the ball changed things in the second half for Barca. His progressive movements were so much deeper into the final third or into Elche's half of the field. And he was much more willing to carry the ball into space. And you could tell that is a direct instruction from Xavi at halftime. And Busquets, in the first half in particular, with Elche, they always had either a striker or one of those in that midfield line to be man marking Busquets. So Busquets, as we know, when he drops in to create a back 3, when both Alba and Alves are trying to push in or even invert in front of him, it still leaves one really important essential player in the buildup farther back of the field. And that means Elche gets to bring their line of confrontation with their block higher up the field. But having Araujo able to progress into that space, meaning you can guard Busquets all you want, but we're still going to get the ball into the midfield with Araujo, who you want to try to take the ball off of. And he is going to find the balls, because he did yesterday, find the balls out wide to the wing, especially when Adama Traore came on, because Adama, unlike Dembele, you know exactly where Adama's going to be, right? There's no secrets. The opponent knows where he's going to be. The Barca players know who he's going to be. And in this case, Barca players know exactly where Adama wanted to start and receive the ball, kind of helped with Araujo getting comfortable in the buildup. And then the positioning of De Jong, he was much closer to the Elche back line. In the first half, he would again drop a little bit deeper, because if Busquets is going to drop to the back three, that means Young had to take up a completely central role. But once Araujo was dribbling into that space and creating more third man runs for Barca to progress up the field, that meant De Jong was able to push his positioning up farther. And what does that do? That creates a higher line of confrontation, which puts much more stress on that back line for Elche, who now are contending with Ferran, Torres, and Memphis. And Memphis, who was dropping in, Pedri was actually almost going into that space that Gabi was occupying on that left wing and stretching out wide. And Alba also brought his positioning farther up and wider out. He was much more at home in that first half. And so all those little tweaks and changes to players' positioning just created all that space for Ferran Torres and Memphis up top. And for Elche, who were able to put some pressure, it was soft pressure. They were forcing Barca to break them down through the middle. And Barca said, we don't have to. We're going to use the entire width of the field. And we're going to, again, make this game vertical and go from our back line to our front line. And we're going to make this thing wide. And we're going to almost bypass the midfield completely. And that's how you break down a low block. And I just was so excited at all those little tiny things. There's all those changes and tweaks to player positioning that created the thing. It wasn't just one player coming on, those halftime changes. It was everything that was done to build that success for Barca in the second half. Okay, I'm done. Rafa, I'm going to take a break. Let's see what you got.
Thing is, I agree with everything that you said. I just wanted to focus a little bit on Ferran, because it's kind of funny. I think I'm going to kind of repeat myself after we talked about the first leg of the Napoli Barcelona game, where Ferran could have ended up with 4 goals if he was a little bit more clinical. And I remember one of the comments on the video was like, yeah, but how can you forget about the finishing part? Like, you can't. And it's like, I know that. I'm just saying that strikers go through these phases. Whether Ferran long-term will end up being a clinical goal scorer, that remains to be seen. Hopefully he does, because that'll be great for Barcelona. But right now, again, it's like the analogy. It's like a bottle of ketchup. Right now, you're hitting it and ketchup is not going out. But you know that if you keep hitting it, ketchup is eventually going to come out and it's going to come pouring down. So that's what happens with goal scorers. Like Ferran right now, what you can judge him on, apart from the finishing, I know, don't shoot the messenger. I know, on the comments, but he's where he needs to be all the time. Like, he's putting himself in the right spots to be in a clear goal scoring opportunity. Because once again, Ferran against Elche, just like in the first leg against Napoli, Ferran scored 1 goal. He could have left Elche with a hat trick easily, because he was putting himself, he knew how to read the play when the play was on the right, when the play was on the left, when he was playing on the left, when he was playing in the middle, when this player was going this way, when this player was going this way. He knew where to go so that he would be in a, whether to pass the ball or to shoot. And it was a mixture of Ferran again not being clinical and Badia becoming the reincarnation of Yashin and playing the game of the season for him. So it was a mixture of both. And again, I know sometimes I tend, like, within myself, I see Ferran miss and I'm like, oh my God, like, we paid 55 million for him. But then I need to remind myself to not be like, we say that in Spanish, like amarillista, like sensationalist, because just to put my emotions aside, because I, like every Barcelona fan, would want to see Ferran score 5 goals each game, and I think he has had the opportunities for that in a lot of games. And I needed to and I urge everyone, especially the ones in the comments of this great YouTube channel, to put their emotions aside a little bit and kind of like analyze everything as raw as possible. Just analyze Ferran as cold as you can, because if you do, I think you'll find that he had a great game. once those chances start going in, I think we could be seeing something special. And that's when everyone will be jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, Ferran this, Ferran that. He's playing great now. No, he's been playing really well since he arrived at Barcelona. Like, Ferran is capable of scoring. We saw it, his first goal with Barcelona, a golazo against Athletic Club. Like, we know what he's capable of. It's just that it happens for strikers. You just go on a bad streak where nothing is going in for the most part. But he's putting himself in great positions to score. So please, I just try to look at the glass half full. I urge everyone, just look at that and let's not like go for the jugular of Ferran, because let's try and look at all, like, out of 10 things, I think he's doing great, like 8 or even 9. I know that one that he's not doing great is pretty important for a striker. I get that. But like, let's try and be a little bit calm with Ferran, because in my opinion, once again, he had a great game.